We are back on Morning Line. Our guest with us this morning, Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall. If you want to join in the conversation, give us a call, 737-7587, talking about some of, whenever you're building a huge, monstrous project like the new jail, a lot of people involved, and maybe, some differences between him and the mayor. And, Taylor brought up some interesting points here. And he is saying, again, and he mentioned the Juvenile Justice Center and the money being spent, and if things aren't done properly. What did you think? Do you agree with him on that, if you're not more involved, that we might have big cost overruns down the stretch trying to fix things that aren't done right?
I wasn't here when the juvenile court building was built, but I can tell you a lot of history. These stories float around Metro, and some of them are very close and real to me. Some of them are anecdotal. But, the Criminal Justice Center that we have now, there's a lot of stories about the problems around that building when it was built. Keep in mind, you had multiple tenants, multiple elected officials, and multiple department heads all trying to get under one roof. That's always going to be tricky. The courthouse over there now, there was an email I got in the last couple of days from a lawyer here in town who's not a personal friend, as a matter of fact, has never been a warm and fuzzy person to me. Just wrote this said this is just ridiculous, talking about it because the courthouse, this is his words, is a disaster today because we had a consultant working directly with the mayor's office.
You're talking about the Birch building?
Right. This is the elevators don't work.
Right. I remember when all that happened.
And so, I'm not giving you that as my opinion. I'm just saying the frustration that people feel when buildings don't function for them, they want to hold someone accountable for it. And I think the Juvenile Justice Center, my opinion is that if you're going to build a new one and fix it, then you need to get the end users as the lead in the project. Who is that? You have a judge that's elected over there and you have a clerk. There's two people that run that building, two elected officials. If you don't let them lead general services through the needs and wishes of how to make the building function, general services is not the expert, nor is the mayor's office, in how a juvenile court building should run. And so, I had a comment over the weekend about Howard School. It was all rebuilt a few years ago, and general services led that project. And according to this, it was talking about how there was multiple people. There's all sorts of elected officials over there and department heads. It's a massive building. And you need a central facilitator when you're trying to settle a whole bunch of different needs and wishes of different departments and elected officials. That's not what we're doing.
Right.
This is one central facility,
a jail,
that we lobbied for 2 years to get moved. It didn't happen, but then we lobbied to keep the money building the jail because the jail is in very desperate state.
So you're the one that sounded the call that we needed a new jail and getting the thing moved forward, and now you're cut out of the process?
I put all the political capital I had in getting it moved. Obviously that didn't happen, but I also put it into making sure that the money was set aside to build what we need to make sure the staff and inmates have a place to live and work. We've done that. And once the transition occurred with the mayor's office, they see it philosophically as their job to make sure that the jail meets their needs and the function of the city is for the mayor's office. I just don't believe that's where that responsibility will rest. You're going to be calling me in 3 or 4 years complaining about not being able to get in and out of the building. You don't have a comfortable place to sit and meet with the inmates that you want to interview, whatever the circumstances may be, because we're going to be, or whoever the sheriff is going to be, the accountable figure. It ought to be. And I think right now I'm going to have to say we need to call General Services. I don't know why they put your booth to visit out in the lobby.
All right, let's take a call from Greg. Greg, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, this is kind of like a never-ending issue through the years, overcrowding of prisons and things like that. My solution to the whole problem is stop arresting so many people and throwing them in jail. When I was growing up and stuff, we had drugs back in the 70s and 80s and stuff. The police never hassled somebody for having a little joint or some little thing. They went after the suppliers. They went after the big guys. They went after the guys that were supplying everybody else.
Now, the problem with this, and I understand Greg might want to go on that, is you're not the one doing the arrests. Right. Those laws are on the books. You basically have to incarcerate who's brought to you. That's it. It's not your choice right now. And I hear what you're talking, Greg. That's another debate. If you want to say too many
Nick,
people.
I think what I agree completely with Greg on, you know me through the years of doing this show, whatever. What I'd much prefer to sit here and talk about is what are we doing about what he's really talking about. I was in Washington 10 days ago trying to lobby to improve sentencing reform, where what he's talking about is exactly right. He is right. The reality of it is that I've spent a tremendous amount of energy in the last 18 or 19 months just trying to make sure that who are brought to jail are in a safe and secure environment that is a constitutionally sound facility. The one we have today is not. And so I have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that we get that fixed and remedied. And if we're going to do that and spend this kind of money, and Greg is going to want to hold someone accountable one day, I want it to be the person who's in this job. He's right on. I don't believe we need to be building more jails. We're building 300 less jail beds in this new design. We are very proud of the effort we're putting forth to ensure that not only fewer people come back to jail that we've had, but I completely agree with him. We need to change the sentencing laws to make sure that who you really are putting in jail are for purposes that are legitimate. Mentally ill people don't need to be brought to jail.
Yeah, which you've said that many a time to me. Let's go next to Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Go ahead, Ricky. Are you there, Ricky?
Yeah, Nick.
Go ahead, sir.
I was just wondering why Mayor Berry would get to make decisions when she has really nothing to do with that sheriff's department. It doesn't make any sense why they would give her the authority to even do that if the sheriff is don't even work for her. It doesn't make any sense why she's even be involved in that part.
Maybe you can give us, and I agree kind of with him. I'm just sitting here thinking, you're both elected officials, so I mean, where is it written who is supposed to be over this? I understand general services under codes and all this, how it's supposed to go, and the council sets the money, but where is it determined whether or not the mayor or you are the one that gets to lead the project? Is that just something that's supposed to happen naturally somehow? Who gets to take that?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the Metro Charter, when it was put together 52 years ago, it explains exactly where my duties are, obviously my responsibilities, and it explains things that Metro government is doing.
Right.
But something like this isn't written in black and white. It really boils down to backing up and asking yourself, wait a minute, we don't want general services cut out of the process. They do have expertise that help us. As it relates to the procurement, the financing, that all has to go through Metro government. I do not get the construction money, nor do I want it. I do not want to have my own bids in my agency. I don't like that. I want that done centralized as a government. We can do that. This was working 18 months ago. Yeah, or for 18 months in the way it should have worked. We were the lead of the project. We were working directly with the finance office and directly with general services, but we were the lead. We were bringing those entities in the room. We were talking to the consultants and the contractors about what we wish and we wanted to happen. We designed, all of these folks, the plans that would have been moved to Harding. When that decision was made not to move to Harding, July 1st, I was immediately working on Plan B, which means we're going to stay downtown. Let's get with general services, get with the consultants and contractors, and make sure that we get what we need downtown. About November or December of last year, we have a new mayor at the time, that decision was made to move that away from the sheriff's office. We do not...
Meaning that decision was made by the mayor to move it away, but how does she have the authority to do that?
Yeah, and it's kind of a fair question. I mean, I don't think it's clear, to be honest with you. I do not want it to be said that we want to take everything. We just want to be the lead. We want general services help. There are things that we need to use.
And in your mind, with this newly elected mayor, is there not a role for her in the process?
Yes, and I think that's the fine line to walk here. She oversees the metro parks, right? I think if she is committed to leaving that park open, that's fine. Let's sit down and figure out what will it take to do that. Leave the park open. We would need to secure the perimeter of the property, and let's make that thing work for both of us.
Working together.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I think if you would ask me about moving inmates back downtown, which is the sheriff's authority and responsibility, I think we'd talk about why we shouldn't do that, and hopefully we'd come up with a compromise that says, instead of moving everybody, why don't we come up with something that says gives bus passes to some people that don't have the money to leave the property on Harding, if there's a way to do that, versus just kind of moving it in a different direction. And like I said before, I mean, I'm talking to council members about issues, my own budget and all sorts of things, and they're looking to me saying, well, what do you need this for, and how big is the building going to be, and when is it going to finish, and what is the cost going to be, and I can't tell you those answers.
How does that make you feel, not being able to answer them?
Yeah, it's embarrassing because I'm not a person, I've never been a person, who I like the term ownership. In our agency, I don't like it when it's unclear who the owner of our problem is in our own agency. To run an organization like we do, is a very large organization, if you let people have room to move away from owning the problem, you'll never have accountability for it. And I believe the accountability for this project should rest directly on the sheriff's office. There's no doubt about it.
And you also firmly believe that if this continues the way it is, and maybe it is continuing through the mayor's office, The bottom line, whether you're involved or not now, 2-3 years from now, you're going to be the one held accountable, which is one way. I know, first and foremost, you want what's best for the county and for this jail. But second of all, you know it's going to be your butt in a sling when you didn't have responsibility, you're saying, for what might happen if there's anything that goes wrong.
Yeah, and I think that's the difficulty, and I have shared that directly with the mayor. You know, I will take all responsibility for anything that we are leading. You know, not by ourselves, but we're leading. I'm not going to take responsibility for decisions someone else is making on behalf of the sheriff's office. That's not fair. It's not fair for us to sit there and, if you believe, let's make this up, if you believe that there shouldn't be video visitation booths placed in the jail because you believe that all visits should be in contact. Therefore, every visitor has to drive and pay to park and come and walk up in the jail. I personally believe we should have both offerings. But if you're making those decisions outside of what the sheriff's office wants, when the families are complaining about having to pay to park and they can't just go to their library or go online and visit their loved one like most jails in the country, and you made a decision that directly impacts how the building works, you can understand how frustrating that's going to be for
And
them.
that's something that's happening here?
Well, I don't know.
But you don't know.
That's what I understand.
We just don't know. We'll take a break on that note. Be back. Our final segment. More calls right after this.